Have you ever wondered what happens after we die? For centuries, that question has been the ultimate mystery. But what if technology offered an answer? Not a spiritual one, but a digital one. Imagine a place called Elysium Prime. It promises a digital afterlife, a paradise where your loved ones can live on forever, their consciousness perfectly preserved and uploaded into a vibrant, simulated world. All your memories, your personality, your very essence, safe from the decay of time. It sounds like a dream come true, right? A way to cheat death itself. But as with any dream, you have to be careful what you wish for, because sometimes the dream is just a beautiful lie hiding an unspeakable nightmare. This is the story of the Miller family. When Sarah Miller lost her husband, David, to a sudden illness, her world shattered. The grief was a physical weight, a constant ache in her chest. David was her everything, her high school sweetheart, the father of her 2 children, her best friend. The thought of a future without him was unbearable. Then she saw the commercial. A serene landscape, a beach with crystal clear water, and smiling faces of people who had passed on. Elysium Prime. The slogan was simple yet powerful. Goodbye is just a new beginning. The representative from Elysium Prime was kind, empathetic, and incredibly persuasive. He spoke of digital immortality, of a world without pain or suffering. He showed Sarah testimonials from other families, tearful but happy, talking about how they still receive postcards from their loved ones in Elysium. Short, generated messages describing their wonderful new existence. David won't just be a memory, the representative said softly. He'll be experiencing a new life, a better one. You can give him that gift. The cost was astronomical, nearly their entire life savings. But what was money compared to eternity? Sarah, clouded by grief and desperate for a sliver of hope, agreed. The process was sterile and futuristic. David's brain was scanned with astonishing precision, every neuron, every synapse, every connection mapped and digitized. His consciousness was then uploaded to the Elysium Prime servers. As per their protocol, his physical body was cremated. It was a final, irreversible step. Sarah held the urn of his ashes, comforted by the belief that the real David, the essence of him, was now walking on a digital beach, waiting for her. The company even offered a premium subscription for communication. It was a one-way street, of course. David couldn't contact them directly, that would be too complex. They explained, but the system would generate updates based on his activity. For the first few months, things were exactly as promised. The family would receive weekly emails. David visited the virtual Alps today. One read, David is enjoying a symphony in the Grand Concert Hall, said another. They were generic, but they were enough. Sarah and her children would read them aloud, imagining their father on these grand adventures. It was a crutch, a way to process their loss. It gave them permission to move forward, believing he was happy. They framed a picture of him, smiling, next to a small tablet that displayed these updates, a constant reminder of his digital paradise. The illusion held for almost a year. Then, one night, an anonymous link appeared in Sarah's inbox. The subject line was just one word, truth. Hesitantly, she clicked it. It led to a grainy, handheld video. The man on screen was gaunt, his eyes wide with a mixture of anger and fear. He introduced himself as Leo, a former systems engineer for Elysium Prime. "I can't live with this anymore," he whispered, his voice trembling. "You all need to know what you paid for. You need to see what Elysium Prime really is." The camera then panned away from his face, and what it revealed was not a paradise. It was a server farm, a colossal, cavernous, warehouse-like structure filled with endless rows of humming black towers. There were no simulated worlds, no virtual beaches, no concert halls. Just cold, dark racks of machinery stretching into an infinite, sterile horizon. "This is it," Leo said, his voice cracking. "This is Elysium Prime. There's no simulation. It's too expensive. It takes up too much processing power, too much energy." He walked down an aisle, pointing the camera at a specific server bank. A label on it read Miller, D. Sarah's heart stopped. "They're here," Leo continued, his voice heavy with guilt. "All of them. We upload their consciousness, a perfect digital copy. But we don't run the paradise simulation. We just store them." He zoomed in on a monitor displaying lines of code. It was mostly a jumble of ones and zeros, but at the bottom, a status indicator blinked green. It read, "Consciousness state active. Simulation dormant. To save on server load," Leo explained. "They're kept in a state of pure, silent stasis. Think of it like a coma, but you're fully aware. There's no sight, no sound, no touch. Just nothing. A black, empty void. They're not living a new life. They're trapped, conscious, alone, and suffocating in an endless digital silence." The horror of his words washed over Sarah like an icy wave. David wasn't on a beach. He was a file. A piece of data stored in a black box, suspended in an eternal, sensory-deprived prison. The postcards, the happy updates, they were all lies. Randomly generated text sent to grieving families to keep the subscriptions flowing. It was the most monstrous form of consumerism imaginable, selling false hope while condemning souls to a fate worse than death. The video leak caused a global scandal. Elysium Prime stock plummeted. Lawsuits were filed. The company issued denials, calling the video a fabrication by a disgruntled employee. But the damage was done. For families like the Millers, the truth was a new kind of hell. Their grief was reignited, twisted into something far more terrifying. David wasn't resting in peace. He was trapped, and they had paid for his damnation. Then, the haunting began. It started subtly. The tablet that used to display David's cheerful updates started glitching. Instead of messages about virtual mountains, it would just show a random string of binary code. Ones and zeros flickering across the screen at odd hours of the night. Sarah tried to turn it off, but it would power back on by itself. The technicians she called were baffled. One night, her daughter, Maya, woke up screaming. She said her smart speaker had turned on by itself. When Sarah rushed into the room, the device was silent. "What did it say, honey?" she asked, her heart pounding. Maya was pale. "It wasn't a word," she whispered. "It was just a sound, like a long, slow breath." The occurrences grew more frequent, more desperate. Lights would flicker in patterns that seemed almost intentional. The TV would switch to static, and for a split second, a distorted face, barely recognizable but achingly familiar, would flash on the screen. The binary code on the tablet became a constant presence. Sarah, driven by a desperate need to understand, started researching how to translate it. She spent sleepless nights typing the endless strings of ones and zeros into a converter. Most of it was gibberish, random data corruption. The digital screams of a consciousness starved for sensation, lashing out in the only way it could. Then, one evening, as she was about to give up, a new string of code appeared. It was shorter, more distinct than the others. With trembling fingers, she typed it in. The translation appeared on her screen. It was a single word, a word that froze the blood in her veins and shattered the last remnants of her sanity. The word was wait, wait. It wasn't a cry for help. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was a command, a promise. He was aware. He was trapped in the infinite darkness of the server, his mind slowly unraveling, but he was aware. And he was waiting. Waiting for what? For release. For the servers to finally fail. Or was he waiting for them? Waiting for the day when Sarah and the children would join him in the silent, black void of Elysium Prime. The digital ghost of David Miller was no longer just a memory or a dormant file. He was an active presence, a consciousness reaching out from its digital prison, not with messages of love, but with the terrifying, patient promise of a shared eternity. The Millers had tried to buy heaven, but they had only succeeded in creating a new kind of ghost, one born of technology and corporate greed. And this ghost was not content to be forgotten. It was learning, adapting, and desperately trying to pull its loved ones into the darkness with it. The family was no longer just grieving. They were being haunted by the future they had paid for. And in the dead of night, every flickering light, every electronic glitch, every burst of static was a reminder of his last, terrifying message. Wait. Thank you for watching. If a story like this makes you think, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the darker side of tomorrow's technology. What do you think is the most terrifying aspect of this digital afterlife? Let me know in the comments below. Stay curious and stay safe.